Given the state of panic, balancing work, homeschooling, little time to keep up with regarding compensatory services, can I rightfully request training for my child's one-to-one para, who will also be with him next year as compensatory services? No. Uh, no, but yes. Okay. It wouldn't necessarily be compensatory services. That's a different concept. What's required though is if your child has a history of need, and if that was a determination made by the IEP team that your child requires in order for your child to receive a free and appropriate public education, needs that kind of support, then at that point, the training is critical. I mean, I know more about your situation than most, just simply because I know your situation. So in your situation, yes, your child, that's already been a determination. That's already a established need that your child requires this in order for him or her to have access to a free and appropriate public education. So at that point, that's not compensatory. That's just your normal IEP requirement of what's needed for your child to receive a FAPE. If they don't do that, then it runs a risk of your child not having access to and not receiving a FAPE. So that's where the proactive nature for the school system to be Johnny on the spot with regards to the training is absolutely critical. And that should be something that as soon as everybody's able to, because of the current situation in the country, then at that point, yes, I highly recommend that schools be proactive and IEP teams be proactive in trying to get ahead of the impending nightmare that is going to unfold. Um, I know that some people think that this is all, all right. So at that point, I'd go back to the IEP team. Now, with regards to compensatory, that's for that time period where they didn't really provide anything. And that would be compensatory in the form of services. So, for example, the communication device. All right, your child was supposed to, during this time period, be receiving his or her related services like speech language, OT. Now, what we've found out is that I'm just going to throw out a percentage, probably upwards to about 80% of the schools did not do a very good job during this time period with regards to compensatory, with regards to distant learning. And because of that, and especially depending on the level of need and accommodations in order for the child to progress. And there's many child that their IEP and the nuances within it that are built in it naturally for the supplemental aids and services for the accommodations in order for them to even benefit or access from their academic instruction and the other educational performance areas of communication and social emotional development. Well, doing things virtually just doesn't help them because in order for them to benefit from these areas, they needed all of these other layers of supports that can't be provided in that format. And so, good faith or not, a good faith attempt as with, as opposed to, see, and this is going to be the other thing, guys. If our schools have been able to figure out how to provide meals to families in need, which they have and they did during this time period, if they were able to figure that out, then you can see where, as an attorney on the parent perspective, tells me that you could have figured out this distant learning combination for segments of your student population that you knew were not going to be benefited by distant learning. So yes, everything wraps around what does good faith mean, but that's the entire attorneys exist is that we argue those points. But I do recommend that you go back to your director and you discuss that. But what would help your child the most is going to be anything related to that output speech generating device. Okay, getting everybody trained on it. Um, Having the staff trained by somebody that has a expertise and a knowledge on that particular program or device. All right. Otherwise, it's like watching me put together a grill. I'm just not very good at reading instructions. I have to have my wife to help me out. I absolutely acknowledge that. All right. I can put it together, but I need somebody to sort of help direct that. I can't explain it. Okay, but she'll be the first to attest that that's the case. Um, so it is important to make sure that whatever program you're using, that the person that that needs to be competent in that program to be able to teach other people. Otherwise, your child's not going to get any benefit and not continue to progress. So training in that area and getting additional services in that area would be critical in the behavioral side. And this is a thing. They're about to loosen restrictions even more in the coming days, probably early next week in Alabama. And I know that that's where you are, which means that they're going to be offering services over the summer. Now, I already know that some private third-party practitioners are already going. And so this is where if the schools don't want to provide these services for whatever reason, not making judgments, these third-party professionals can, and they will. And because we got this CARES Act money, these schools can spend it if they don't want to do it themselves. If they can't find people willing to leave their homes to provide service to our kids, they can stay home. But that means that somebody else that is open, that can do so safely, can provide those services. Lastly, are one-to-one pairs forbidden from participating in the students' IEP meetings? I mean, they're not forbidden. There's no rule against it. It's just something that is not the standard, simply because the tier levels of responsibility is typically the classroom teacher oversees what the para does. So the accountability factor falls on the classroom teacher and not on the para. All right. So do I think it's smart if your child has a one-to-one designated para to be involved in the IEP meeting? Yeah, I think it's wise. I think it's smart. Can you force it? No, not necessarily. They're not necessarily a mandated member, though I do think they should be, but there's no rule against it. But it is something to where, I think it would be beneficial for if you have that kind of standard to involve all members of the team. And I do believe that the para would have a benefit from being able to participate in such a meeting. Okay?